Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the other side of the coin and welcome back to your latest Chelsea news. Interesting twist of events that has taken place over the last 24 hours in regards to this ownership chaos, in regards to this ownership mess. One of the angles that is getting explored right now is perhaps all of this information, perhaps all of these reports that are getting leaked out is maybe due to the fact that Todd Boehly has realized that he's probably got no say in the ownership anymore, no power, not enough power, because ultimately Clearlake Capital have majority stakeholdership. And maybe Boehly is, perhaps his camp from his side is leaking out all of this information to entice a takeover of his shares, to entice Clearlake Capital to come up with a proposal to buy him out, and maybe he's driving this to get the best price possible. That is an angle that needs to be explored. It feels like it's not too far-fetched. It truly feels like it's not too far-fetched. Now, look, that might be one angle. There's a whole heap of other angles that's happening, and we're going to go through all of this whole heap of news that has dropped from The Athletic and many other sources. We're going to see exactly what each and every one of them have said. And we're also going to cover Osimhen news as well. John B. Mikel has dropped his latest podcast where he talks about Osimhen. So we'll talk about that, exactly what John B. Mikel is talking about. Perhaps Osimhen saga is not over. Perhaps he's still in Chelsea's radar. So we'll talk about that and some bits and pieces in regards to players coming back to training. Cole Palmer is back in training. Wesley Fofana is back in training. Jadon Sancho continues to train. So, are they all destined to start against Bournemouth? And there is some talks about sponsorships as well. Not the front of shirt sponsorship, but another different type of sponsorship. So we'll talk about that. Now, let's get cracking into this. First up, ladies and gentlemen, this report comes from The Athletic. Athletic has dropped a lot of news over the last 24 hours. Clearlake and Boehly are in tatters. Boehly's approach is to hire experts and let them get on with it. While Clearlake, particularly Egbhali, has taken a role considered by Boehly as micromanaging. A source close to Boehly's side described Egbhali as being obsessed with player trading. These are a couple of things that I've mentioned in the last few videos that I feel Eghbali's approach is very much micromanagement style of approach. And yes, he loves the stock exchange, environment, buying and selling players, using players as a commodity. So there is a clash of culture here. Eghbali wants to be updated on a minute-by-minute basis, whereas Todd Boehly wants to hire competent people in the structure and let them run the show. Eventually, they will all report up to the ownership. So, look, what's the best way? What is the best way to run Chelsea right now? I mean, I tend to think Boehly's way makes far more sense, but are we too deep into Eghbali's structure now to make immense changes again? Is it far easier to perhaps buy out Boehly and just allow Eghbali's tenure to continue and see where it takes us? I don't know. Every single day, I'm getting more confused about the whole situation. In one hand, I feel like Todd Boehly has the heart and desire to see the best of Chelsea Football Club. He's the one who wanted Chelsea back in 2019. He's the one who was used as the face to acquire Chelsea Football Club when that whole kerfuffle took place with the sanctions and Roman had to sell up. And Clearlake Capital were only meant to be the funders, not really the decision makers. And now all of a sudden they've taken over all the decisions and they are shunning Boehly out of the stakeholdership and the shareholdings as well. It's difficult. What do we do? You let me know, ladies and gentlemen, in the comment section. Furthermore, figures familiar with the talks claim multiple parties have approached Boehly, indicating that they are willing to take on Chelsea with him. Long-term investors, not people who expect short-term returns, ideal candidates seen as passive financial backers who can provide perpetual capital. And there's some words that apparently Boehly can do this in 2 months. Around 2 months, he can find new investors, buy out Clearlake Capital, and basically start the new era. Well, the new era within the new era, because we are still in the new era of the ownership. The problem being, owners are in disagreement. Owners don't seem to be talking to each other. Owners don't want to even know each other anymore. It seems like they're in tatters. So, look, my biggest concern is by Boehly doing this and bringing in new investors, hopefully the module will be laid out that you are simply investors. You're only bringing in the money. I am in full control. I will hire a CEO. I will hire XYZ to run the football club, and all accountability lies on me. And then I report back to the investors. All of that seems like a lot of change, considering we're in the third season of the new ownership, and more changes will only mean, wow, more setbacks, I feel. Perhaps it may mean that this path that we're going through with Eghbali right now, I don't know whether this is the right way to go about it. And maybe it's an opportunity right now to cut all of that and bring in the Boehly structure. Either way, it's a mess. And ultimately, the fans are the ones who are getting, who are suffering here. And of course, the players and the managers, with all of this uncertainty, it's not looking good, bruv. It is not looking good. So once again, what do we want? What do we want? I'm slightly now moving towards the fact that, look, whatever Eghbali has done, he's done. He's somewhat trying to rectify the situation, and we just continue with him. But is Eghbali and Clearlake willing to offer Todd Boehly his shares and the price that he probably wants? We don't know exactly what he wants, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to walk away with minimal amount of money or minimal profit. He'd probably want substantial, profit off the back of his shareholdings that he has. Are they going to be able to find an agreement? The agreement we will go through the news is that they want no governance of minority shareholders. They want zero governance for them, and I don't know whether they can absolutely get that. Three factors in particular have contributed to the fracturing of Chelsea's owners: a cultural difference in how Chelsea should operate, decision to mutually part ways with Mauricio Pochettino, lack of progress over stadium. Now, this middle one, we've already touched base on the cultural differences in Chelsea, how they should operate. Obviously, Clearlake Capital, Eghbali is micromanaging, whereas Boehly doesn't want to do micromanaging. He wants to hire competent people and let them run the show. Decisions to mutually part ways with Mauricio Pochettino seems to be one of the sticking points in the fan base. Fan base is saying the fact that Boehly wanted to keep Pochettino, that is a red flag. I feel like we need to understand Boehly never wanted Mauricio Pochettino in the first place. He wanted Arne Slot, I think, eventually enough. There was reports that Arne Slot was getting flown in to Chelsea for an interview. For some reason or another, it never happened, and we ended up with Mauricio Pochettino in Eghbali's tenure. But I think what Boehly was trying to do here is that he was looking for stability. He didn't want to chop and change again at the end of last season. Whereas some parts of the fan base is saying, at least, fair enough, Eghbali made a mistake, but at least he was trying to rectify it and not just prolong with it. So there's two sides of the coin here. Which is right, which is wrong? Once again, I'll let you guys decide. I can understand both sides. I can understand both sides of this spectrum, between the owners. Lack of progress over the stadium is definitely a key issue with Eghbali. Since Eghbali's tenure has taken over, which was January 2023, we haven't heard much about the stadium, the redevelopment plans. And this is an issue because we need to increase our revenue. And one of the biggest ways to increase it is with the stadium being redeveloped. And this is something, from Todd Boehly's point of view, is a legitimate concern that Eghbali and Clearlake have not emphasized enough focus on this matter. Todd Boehly has not led recruitment at Stamford Bridge since January 2023, when he relinquished his interim sporting director title and signaled that he would step back from day-to-day responsibility. So as we can see, Todd Boehly only had the one window, which was the summer window of 2022. By the time January 2023 came around, he was no longer the sporting director. And we have to understand, Todd Boehly is not really a sporting director. People are very upset with what Todd Boehly did in that summer of 2022. But people also need to understand, Todd Boehly is not a sporting director. He never had the intention to be the sporting director. At that point, we didn't have any other help and he had to run the show. His main intention was to bring in Michael Edwards and let Michael Edwards run the show along with the manager. So we have to understand that no point in sitting here and blaming Todd Boehly for all those issues back then. And having said that, he only took care of Chelsea sporting directorship for a very short time. From January 2023 up until now, it's been Eghbali and the sporting directors. And can we actually say that these guys have done well so far? Most likely, it's a massive fat no. There is suspicion on Clear Lake's side that this schism being played out in the public domain is actually a ploy to disguise the true motive of Boehly's camp, which they believe is an attempt to put pressure on them to make a big offer to purchase his stake. So this is the new angle now, ladies and gentlemen. Clear Lake is saying that Boehly is leaking, Boehly's camp is leaking all of this information in the public to force a takeover from Clear Lake in order to take over Boehly's shares. And they're trying to drive this news as much as possible so that they can increase their price and they get a good offer from Clear Lake Capital, which honestly, I don't think it's too far-fetched. Maybe this is a ploy. Maybe Boehly has got to a point where he's realized, look, I can't stick around here. I don't have any position here. My minorities, shareholdings mean nothing to the football club. So what I'm going to do now is drive this, try and get the best offer possible and push Clear Lake to buy me out. Maybe that is an angle as well. Clear Lake Capital's view is that Todd Boehly should sell up or accept changes to Chelsea's governance, changes to Chelsea's governance that would remove him from the board and strip him of any say over decisions in exchange for economic concession. So this is also Clear Lake's remit at the moment that, look, it's not working out. Let's get Todd Boehly to give up his powers in the board level, and we'll compensate that from an economic standpoint. So maybe this will be the coming together of both the owners to an agreement that, look, maybe this is the best thing to do. I'll step away, Todd Boehly, give me an economic concession, and we can move our way. But we shall see. There is still the possibility that Todd Boehly could stick around and say, look, I've worked hard to get Chelsea Football Club, wanted it since 2019. I'm not just giving up so easily. So there could be that standpoint as well. Clear Lake Capital feel that Todd Boehly should consider stepping down as Chelsea chairman. One of Clear Lake's main aims is for minority shareholders to have no say over governance. And it makes sense. Look, it's too difficult to govern the entire organization where certain minority shareholders can have a lot of power, can have, a say when you've got 62% shareholders who really should be making all the calls. Minority shareholders, if they keep putting their heads into every decision, then it's going to be very difficult for Chelsea to move forward. So I do get this, that whoever is the majority shareholder should ultimately have most of the say, and the other shareholders need to just, I guess, accept the fact that you're only here for economic gain. So it is going to be a massive change, a massive restructure that needs to happen off the back of this ownership mess, because so far that's not how it's been operating, right? Chelsea Football Club. Boehly versus Clear Lake, what I can understand from reading the source report so far. So this is a nice little summary from PYS from all the reports that has been dropping for the past days and whatnot since this news has come about. This is what Boehly wants a CEO of football, then a sporting director, wants them to make the decisions, wants stability with coaches, thinks plans for Stamford Bridge rebuild or new stadium should be faster, does not think owners should be hands-on day-to-day agrees with data, multi-club model, and youth-led approach, but would make more exceptions for older and proven players. So this has been clear that this is Boehly's remit. Eghbali and Clear Lake, on the other hand, prefers two sporting directors, want the directors to feed up to them, must be involved in all football decisions, can be more ruthless on managers, heavily data and youth-led. It's definitely a cultural clash. And as I keep reiterating, it cannot continue with both of these owners. One needs to take the other one. Whoever it is, that's the way to go about it, because right now it's a complete contrast between the two owners, and it's detrimental for Chelsea Football Club. So ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts about all the ownership chaos that has taken place in the past 24 to 48 hours, and tell me where you guys are at. Are you Team Egbali or Team Boehly, Team Boehly at the moment? For me, it seems like it's probably a lot easier to just keep Egbali, even though my heart is saying Boehly, but it's too much of a change. I think right now it's too much of a change. Let me know your thoughts. Now, next up, ladies and gentlemen, some information in regards to Osimhen. John Obi Mikel, in his latest podcast, says, I know what Victor wanted. I know what the club offered him. We finally got to a compromise, paperwork, medical, and a few issues that we just couldn't get over the line. So it was close. Looks like a particular offer was almost agreed upon, and there was just not enough time ultimately for the remaining parts to take place. So could this still be something that can be revisited in the January window, or potentially in the summer, next summer? We shall see. Mikel further goes on to say, if we have to pick this up in the January or summer, we know where we stopped at. It is just the little details that need to be finalized, and then the deal will be done. Now, a few people have been saying that this can't be done in January. I think, and I don't know the truth behind it. All I know that apparently there is a break clause in January that Osimhen has inserted for Galatasaray. So it can still be done potentially. Now, whether this is for Napoli only, or whether any teams can actually do this, I don't know. We shall see. We need to understand the stipulation a lot better. But I have the feeling that Osimhen is not stupid to not have an exit policy in the January transfer window, unless he truly feels that he wants to stick around in Turkey for at least this upcoming season, and then he'll make his decision in the summer. So we shall see. And we shall also see whether Chelsea Football Club actually wants to go back for Osimhen, knowing Gyökeres is also doing well. Gyökeres' name should really be thrown into the mix for him to join Chelsea Football Club. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, Cole Palmer, Wesley Fofana, and new signing Jadon Sancho were just some of those involved in Monday's gym work and training session as head coach Enzo Maresca continues to develop his style of play. Can we expect all of these players to play against Bournemouth? This is the big thing now. I wonder how the players will react with the Bournemouth match coming up in the upcoming weekend. These players would have seen all of these ownership news all over social media. I just wonder how they will react to all of these news, and hopefully their mind can be in the right spot to get a victory against Bournemouth. It's very important. We cannot be dropping any more points against Bournemouth. Chelsea has today unveiled Linglong Tyre, the global tyre manufacturer, as our new global tyre partner on a multi-year deal. So this is a new sponsorship that we've got. It's not the front of shirt sponsorship, but it is another sponsorship that we've acquired. According to sources close to the deal, the contract will be worth around 2.5 million a year, which is nice little money. Why not? Chelsea needs to make as much as money as possible, as much as revenue as possible, because ultimately the rules that have been adjusted in financial fair play is you're only going to be able to utilize in terms of transfer market budget based on your revenue down the track. Chelsea are in talks to sell David Dacha Fofana to AEK Athens. Is surplus to requirements. Another one of those purchases that was made during Eghbali tenure when the new sporting directors came in, and you know, he was deemed as that next big superstar young kid, and all of a sudden now he's on his way to AK Athens. It needs to happen because we simply don't have any space for him. And looks like Eghbali loves the stock exchange player trading scenarios. He really, really likes that environment. So yeah, that is the latest. Looks like, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts about the ownership. Should Boehly stick around? Should Eghbali stick around? Can they work together? Probably not. You let me know your thoughts. Osimhen, do you want us to go back for Osimhen? And yeah, it looks like some of the players are back full training, and hopefully the outlook against Bournemouth is going to be great. Smash up the like button if you're here for the first time. Subscribe, hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Until next time, everyone, take care. See ya. Goodbye.